Hello again everyone, welcome back to another Echoes of Mana video. My name is Mars, and today we're going to be talking about some of the collaborations that I think are either likely or that I just kind of want. Okay, let me have my daydreams. Let's talk about collabs. I think they could be awesome for the game. Let's get to it. Before we get to the video, I wanted to thank today's sponsor, Amazon Coins, for sharing a promotion with us today in correlation with the Echoes of Mana launch. So this is an exciting one, you guys. If you're interested in Echoes of Mana, this is the one you want to know about. Right now, the Amazon Appstore is offering 1,000 Amazon coins back if you buy $100 or 10,000 Amazon coins using the link down in the description of my video. Saving this money in your in-app purchases is super easy. All you have to do is download the Amazon Appstore, download the Amazon App Store version of Echoes of Mana, and then purchase Amazon coins. And you can use my link. You can visit this page and download or buy some coins through that link. And then anytime you use coins, you're getting a discount when you buy because you buy the coins at a discounted rate. So you can save up to 20% on all of your in-app purchases. And for this special promotion, this limited time promotion, you can get 1,000 coins when you buy 10,000. So this is a huge way if you're going to spend money on the game. I absolutely recommend this. It's something I use myself when I'm spending on gacha games. So without further ado, thank you so much, Amazon Coins, for sponsoring today's video. Let's get to the fun. Alright, so today I do want to talk about the different collaborations that I think are possible or even likely with Echoes of Mana. And yeah, I mean, some of this is just daydreaming. Some of this is me just wishful thinking. I would love to see this. This would make me even more interested in the game. Other collabs, I'm like, yeah, I think there's a reasonable chance that these will happen just based on the business side of things, right? Based on the property ownership. And so, you know, of course, the first one I think is the most obvious one. Final Fantasy is a huge series that Square Enix owns the rights to, and they could realistically make an endless amount of collaborations with Echoes of Mana based on Final Fantasy characters, and I'm here for it. And they do this in pretty much all of their other gacha games, any of their other mobile games that they run. For the most part, they have collaborations, and they have them with Final Fantasy. And I know we haven't seen any in Echoes of Mana yet. We haven't seen collabs at all. Is this something that they do, or are they going to do? I don't know. But I think that if they were going to do it, Final Fantasy is one of the most likely series. One of the interesting things to consider, though, is that not all Final Fantasy titles are created equal. They actually kind of have subdivisions of intellectual property ownership and different levels of control that they exert over them. So there are some titles that are actually more likely within Final Fantasy to be used as a collaboration than others. A lot of the time it just has to do with which ones have current productions going on. So, you know, Final Fantasy 15, for example, has been used a lot of times in collaborations in other games, and that's primarily because they don't have anything in live production right now. Whereas games like Final Fantasy 14 almost never have collaborations, right? Like that's the golden goose as far as FF collabs. You like never see it, and a lot of that has to do with a lot of the intellectual property rights and stuff that are behind the curtain that Square Enix is dealing with and doling out. So, you know, hedge your expectations. If it's me, obviously I want Final Fantasy 14 collabs. It's my favorite of the series. But, I mean, I don't think that's super realistic. You're more likely to see stuff like 15 or 10, 6, 3, 1, you know, that don't really have anything going on with them intellectual property-wise that allow them to be freed up for that sort of thing. So that is the first and most likely of the collabs. Another one that I think is quite likely is something from the NIER series. And this is primarily because we've seen NIER come up a lot in collaborations for other games. I know Gumi has produced gachas for Square Enix before for both War of the Visions and Final Fantasy Brave Exvius. And NIER has been present in both of those games. They introduced 2B, 9S, and even A2 in a couple of them, along with some other things, other features and characters. That's awesome. And I think NIER is a very popular series. It's a very popular game. And now with Replicant having received its remaster, I think it was last year, or maybe the year before. I mean, there are more options for them to kind of dip their toes into NIER, and I think it kind of fits Echoes of Mana pretty well, since Echoes is a very like button meshy sort of game. You've got a lot of basic attacks and combos and dodges. It's very interactive, so it's a good place to kind of help a character like 2B come to life, where in her game NIER Automata, she also is kind of jumpy, dodgy, slashy sort of stuff. I think it's a natural fit, so there's a good chance we could see something from NIER. I would be all about it. That would excite me. Let me throw you one that's a little more off the wall. We've seen Square Enix do Tomb Raider collabs before. I think I had heard that perhaps the development studio that did Tomb Raider has been sold off or something like that, so maybe Square doesn't still have the rights to Tomb Raider. I didn't remember to check whether or not that was true. However, they've done Tomb Raider collabs before, including Lara Croft as a playable character in Brave Exvius. It is a Square Enix property. And, within this category, there are a number of other Square Enix properties that could be, touched as well. Like Deus Ex is one, for example, with Adam Jensen. Like, there are a lot of these other Square Enix games that are kind of like their one-off games that, they produce one of every few years. They could include characters from that could be really interesting collaboration characters. I know they did Just Cause with Rico Rodriguez in Brave Exvius. It was a very strange choice, but they have a whole pantheon of IPs that they could go off of. I feel like Tomb Raider is the one that they've been the most successful with in the past, and therefore is one that could be likely for a collaboration in the future, and I think it would be cool. It's definitely out there. But speaking of out there, I'm going to pop a couple of my dream collabs to you, and then we'll get to one that I think is really interesting. So, if it were up to me, if I could choose the collabs that are in the game, I would love one for Castlevania. Okay, so I grew up playing the Super Nintendo games for Castlevania, the NES games as well. Castlevania 1, 2, 3, and 4, I mean, that's my jam. I've played Lord of Shadows, the newer ones. I've played a lot of Castlevania games, and I love the story and the vibe and the feel of the universe. And then there's the Castlevania Netflix series that is just, it's so cool. That's what this art is based on. These characters are dope. And it's one of those games where, I believe it's still owned by Konami, and they kind of don't produce a lot of their own Castlevania games most of the time. It's been a while since we've seen a main series title of Castlevania, but they do dole out, their IP occasionally to be borrowed or collaborated with, such as with the likes of Super Smash Bros. Right? Simon Belmont and Richter Belmont are playable characters in that game. That's definitely a case where they're kind of sharing IP rights. So do I think Castlevania is likely? No. Would I like it? Yes, very much so. That would drive my interest up. I mean, playing Alucard or Trevor or something like that in the game, it would just be awesome. It would be super cool. And we're going to indulge one more of my pipe dream. This would be super dope. I don't think it'll ever happen. Collabs is Mega Man X. Okay, I'm a huge fan of this series. It kind of stems from that same nostalgia and love for the original SNES games. Mega Man X was very prevalent around the same time that Secret of Mana was making it big on the Super Nintendo. And that's a console that was around for a number of years, so there were a lot of games that kind of popped up and became popular during that time. And the Mega Man X series was definitely one of them. I would love it. Again, you have characters who come from a world that's a little bit button mashy, dodge, jump in, engage, sort of playstyle. I think is a natural fit for Echoes of Mana. Do I think this is likely? No. But if we want to talk about unlikely collabs, let me give you one that is interesting and possible. It's a little out there, but I think it would be super cool. And that collaboration would be with Secret of Evermore. And let me tell you, I want to make my own video about just this game, because Secret of Evermore is one of the most interesting game development stories in my mind from Square Enix's history. Just long story short, Secret of Evermore was the only game that was developed by Squaresoft USA. I think it was USA. Yeah, it was in Renton, Washington, if I remember right, which is not far from where I grew up. And this studio only made Secret of Evermore before it was closed down. And the idea was that they basically wanted to take the successful gameplay formula of Secret of Mana and basically build a new game inspired by that gameplay that is built for a Western audience. So it's basically just like a Western stylized sort of approach to the Secret of Mana formula. And let me tell you, this is one of my favorite Super Nintendo games, just in general. I mean, the amount of stuff that's in this game is immense. There's a ton of crap stuffed into this game. It's very enjoyable. The story is incredibly unique in the sense that, like, I've never really played a game exactly like it. To this day, I play a lot of games, but this is one of the most out there, most unique, most interesting games I've ever played. And I would love to see it come back to something like Echoes of Mana in the form of a collaboration. You know, if you see the screenshot in the bottom right of the screen, like, this shows the gameplay, and it looks a lot like Secret of Mana, right? Where you have your party members on the bottom, and they have, like, their % recharge bar for their, like, attacks and stuff. A lot of it is very reminiscent. So the translation into Echoes of Mana is very... I mean, it's very direct. It's very easy. So, do I think they'll do this collab? Unfortunately, I don't think so, primarily because Secret of Evermore was kind of a redheaded stepchild of Squaresoft at the time. The game didn't perform super well at the time. It definitely grew on audiences over time, but it was the only game that was produced by that studio, and nothing has really been done with it since then. It doesn't even have a port over, like, to the Nintendo Switch or anything like that. Like, it just after it came out, you know, it did okay. It has its fan base, but they didn't do anything else with it, and it kind of died. So. That said, this would be the one I would probably most want to see out of any of them. I know it's not likely, but it makes sense, right? This one makes sense. So those are kind of the different collaborations that I think are likely or possible, right? Or that I would love to see in Echoes of Mana in the future. What do you want to see come to the game? What game would make you super excited to play Echoes of Mana as a collaboration? Tell me in the comments. I look forward to reading it, and we'll see everybody in the next video.